Hello, everyone. It's Andy Awkward or Andy Peters. This is a new podcast called Search for Tomorrow. And so, what this podcast is going to be is basically I'm going to highlight some of the Canadian Magic players that you haven't heard about yet, whether that's because they're new to the scene or if maybe there's some other reason, like they just play on Magic Online and maybe you haven't seen them at a paper event. And with COVID, that kind of thing is pretty prevalent, I would say. There's a lot of Magic players that are very good that a lot of people don't know about. And so for the first guest, I decided to bring on a prolific Magic Online grinder, House of Mana, or Jack Potter, who's actually from the GTA, right? Is that right, Jack?
No, I'm southwestern Ontario. I'm over in London.
London, okay, that's the GTA over here to me. But okay, all right. So, I guess the first thing is, why don't you tell me a bit about yourself? Why don't you explain who you are to people? Let's say you were trying to get on a pro tour testing team, and
Yeah,
they
for
said,
sure.
"Who's Jack Potter?"
I'm Jack. I've been playing Magic since Rise of Eldrazi, so that would be about almost 12 years ago. Um, yeah, it sounds about right. I've been playing competitive Magic for the last year since the start of 2019. I've been grinding Moto. I started just playing on Magic Online uh, back also in 2019, but I didn't really get really immersed into it until the pandemic hit. Since that was like beforehand, all the paper things were so happening as such. I was pretty active in the Ontario paper scene. I wasn't very good though. I never really put up many results, except for maybe like one top eight at a Chimera Gaming 5K, or maybe it was a 3K. I don't remember what that series was over in Kitchener, but that was really kind of how I got my start into competitive Magic. And then once the pandemic hit, of course, like a lot of things changed. I just like started playing more Magic Online, and throughout 2020, I never really had any results. But once 2021 started, a lot of things happened that year, and it's been my best year in Magic by far. I remember I had uh, a lot of success in the season 2 of the Magic Online Championship season. I had a PTQ top 8, which I ended up throwing the top 4 of, which was a miserable experience. It was a memory that I still have not managed to eradicate from my head. But so there was that. I top baited the Modern Showcase at the start of season 2. This was the last Modern Showcase pre MH2. So there was like it was in that weird spot of Modern, like post Euroban, where Blue Eye Prowess and Healy God was just all over the place. I did that with Amulet. I also top baited the PTQ with Amulet. I should probably preface the fact that at heart, I'm an Amulet one trick. I've a majority of my success on Magic Online has been with Amulet, and it's just been my go-to for the last few years. And so yeah, I played in the Modern Showcase qualifier a couple months later. I lost in the top 4. That's really ill. But the interesting thing about this season was that this was the first season that they had brought back the what was it? Sorry, the Mox leaderboard. So the top 2 points leaders on there would qualify for the Mox. And so what ended up happening is after the Mox qualifier, getting in top 4, I gained 10 points in addition to what I had already, which put me from dead in the race to very, very active. And so in the coming weeks, the events started happening. And for the most part, the 2 spots were locked up by Sam Rolfe and Nathan Stoyer. And what ended up happening was Sam Rolfe actually won the Legacy qualifier, which opened up that second slot. So Nate was locked. He was not getting jumped, but there was a lot of fighting for that second spot. And so in the coming weeks, I had really put a lot of effort learning MH2 Limited since that was the format for the Mox Open that month. And so I am just playing prelims like almost every single day. I am trying to learn so much about this format. And I remember the Mox Open weekend comes, weekend one. Bullet one. My pool was like pretty good, but I ended up went to dropping. It was rough, but thankfully, not a single person in the race managed to top it that open. So nothing had changed going into Sunday. Sunday comes along. I remember saying this to all my friends, and this is like a quote that people never seem to forget, and that is, "Damn! On my last bullet, I opened the worst pool possible," and it turns out the pool was far from the worst pool I've ever opened, and in fact, it was probably the best pool I had opened all season. And I end up breakering into top 8 alongside Sanderson, who was the other person live in the race at the time. And so we did the draft, and we both advanced into semifinals. And what ends up happening in semifinals is Tommy loses, and I advance to the finals. So we are then in the scenario of, well, in order for both of us to qualify for the Mox, I have to win the Mox Open, and then Tommy gets in with second place. I lose the finals to Marcelo Almeida, Mazinalita on Magic Online, which unfortunately that knocked out Tommy, but he was good next season. He ended up queuing for the Mox next season. But that's what hit me, and that's when I had qualified for the Mox. And as well as my first Pro Tour as well, which was surreal.
Yeah, so that must have been like a pretty great feeling once you get to that finals. You're locked either way, right?
Yeah, when I had gone to the finals, I remember just thinking, like, wait, the result of this just doesn't matter. I am locked. And I remember like reading the Discord messages afterwards, and actually, like, it was like I didn't even need to win the semifinals. Once Tommy had lost, that was it.
Wow.
And when the event finished, I just remember just falling over, and the whole thing did not feel real at all. I was sorry.
Go ahead.
I remember just like my hands just like went like completely numb, and I'm just like, for a second, I just like just could not believe it, and then I just remember just like my mom was sitting, or not the sitting, but she was sitting outside my door, and I just remember just screaming, "Holy shit! I just fucking did it! I did it!" And wow, it's been what, 9 months, little less than that. It was August 29th was when that happened. So like eight or so months, yeah. And yes. It still does not feel real that I managed to do all that.
Did you ever think like qualifying for the Mox through the leaderboard is something that you would even try to do?
No, not at all. I remember them announcing the leaderboard, thinking, "Oh, that's really cool," and like like a lot of grinders like I remember. So like when they initially had announced the leaderboard, they were going to make it so challenge top 8s would apply to that, which thank God they got rid of that. That would have been an absolute mess. I would have consider myself degenerate considering how many popper challenges I've played. Too many. But I would definitely say though that that leaderboard would become super degenerate. And every season now, it's just been an absolute, like, just such an amazing thing to watch. And when it happened during my season, I just like remember Sandy Dog, Brandon Burton. He was always like trying to get me to play all these events. And at one point, I remember getting super stressed out about it and getting super burnt out because I was playing every single event that I could that would give box points. And this was after I'd gotten my second top 8 of the year, which was the Modern Showcase Challenge. And at that point, I was just getting really burnt out, and I just could not, for the life of me, do well in any events. I would maybe I would top maybe like a couple of challenges. I went on a massive tear in Popper back in May, I believe, or maybe it was April. I don't remember. But I remember just like I just could not, for the life of me, get a top 8 in any premier event. And so once the Mox qualifier came around, and which of course I played Amulet, I just remember I could not lose a game. I 5-0'd the Swiss. I did not drop a game in the Swiss until round 5, where I'd already been locked. But I was playing to try to knock out Azalta Yellow and try and get them out of top 8 because they were also in the Mox race. So I was trying to maybe see if I could, beat them, and hopefully their breakers would be enough to get into top 8. And it ended up being that they ended up getting in but losing in quarters. But yeah, I just remember like I was just on fire for that tournament. I was playing ridiculously well, and then of course I paired into Will Edel, where it was Amulet versus Murtide, and I just got completely rolled in that event. But I just remember like throughout the entire, like at one point between the Showcase Challenge and the Showcase Qualifier, I just said to myself, stop caring about these events, wait for this mock qualifier to happen, and if you do well on it, then we go for it. And if not, then it's not the end of the world. And then, well, of course, like the event gave me a bunch of points, so it was like, well, I mean, I have to play this, right? It's just like I have to play these opens, and
So, one thing I wanted to ask you, so is that like your big breakout, I assume? Is that like the first thing that you really felt like put you on the map at all?
1000%.
Before that, like describe, other than like the Chimera 5K or 3K, had you been top 8 challenges and stuff like that?
Like I said a little bit earlier, I went on this massive streak in Popper for a little bit where I like top 8'd like 4 challenges in a row, ended up splitting the finals of I believe one top 4 in another one, and then winning another, and then also top baiting another one. And I just couldn't lose in that format for a little bit. I had racked up a little bit with that, but Popper only goes so far, right? And so, but aside from that, I never really had much of like a name on Magic Online outside of really like the Amulet community. For majority of 2020 and 2021, I started a podcast called Titan Talk, which was a podcast based around Amulet Titan, of course, and that was with Francisco Paluzek and Jose Muniz. We ran that for a while. Fran ended up coming off, and we saw him off with Nicholas Bruno, Pumped and Wine. And since then, I left, and the podcast has just been on, I guess, hiatus ever since. But I remember just like getting really, really active in that community, and but also felt kind of surreal to me because I had like met like a lot of people through that. I remember like before the pandemic and back when I was like so just like being like a paper Timmy. I'm sure a lot of us like we watched the SCG tour, right? And I remember like one of the people who inspired me a lot when it came to Magic was Dom Harvey, and now I work with him on a regular basis. We tested together for the Mox qualifier, for the Mox as well. I've met him now at multiple events. I'm going to see him, of course, at the Face Open tomorrow. And to go from, like idolizing someone and like really like looking up to someone, and then and then going like a year and a half later and like working with them and talking to them on almost a daily basis, it's just surreal.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. Like you went from like looking up to someone to becoming one of their peers, and that kind of validation can do a lot for like how you feel like your place in the game is.
For
And
sure.
I know personally, it's like one of the things that I maybe selfishly strived for the most was just some validation. It's like I almost cared that people thought I was good more than I cared if I was good. And I think a healthy balance is really important. But sometimes it's just, I think it's okay to just let yourself know that you're a part of this group and you're with them, right? You're not necessarily they're not steps and steps above you.
For
And if,
sure.
at the very least, it's not unattainable.
Yeah, and I would always say a big part of that, of like getting like validation or whatever, for I mean personally, or like uh maybe like not so much like humbling myself. I'm not really sure how to put it, but was started to network with all these other grinders in, like, for example, the youth grinders Discord, as well as the Hive Mind, or slash Boomer v Zoomer, as well as just my other tour with all my teammates. Um, it's like being able to work with like these most, like, just like spectacular players constantly. It's a very rewarding feeling. Uh, like there's so many grinders out there now who just win so much on, and namely Zoomer grinders who just cannot stop losing. To that I want to shout out, of course, Nathan Sawyer is like number one. I mean, most recent Mox champion. Played all three Mox in 2021, which was now, of course, like this is a newer system and it's only been around for now. This is year number three, but qualifying for three mocks in a row and then, of course, winning the third one is just an astounding feat. Uh, and then, of course, I also want to give a shout out to Julian Jakubowicz, or yeah, he just been on an absolute tear lately. He's probably, I would say, one of the best Magic players on Magic Line right now, and it's not particularly close.
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk about one of the reasons I started this podcast in particular. Is it started on the First Strike podcast. I was trying to explain to KYT Carding Tom like how great these like Zoomer players that people don't know about are, and like people are just in for a rude awakening when they start going to paper events and start winning all the paper events. And I think I really thought it would highlight at this face-to-face tour event with like the Zoomers who were able to make it out to this event. Is I really thought this would be like a rude awakening for the players who like didn't play that much, who were like very good back then, like GP winners before COVID, like platinum pros before COVID. I think what's going to happen is some of these Zoomers are going to kind of come in and whoop their ass.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I think it's just a combination of the amount they play, and there's just a lot of the time when they have the right mindset, and this goes with anyone, is they're just so willing to learn, and like especially when you get in like a big group full of like a ton of good Magic players, like for example, Boomers versus Zoomers Discord, which has been like a massive plus for me as well in Magic, is you just have to be humble because you have to understand that there's 50 people in this Discord who are probably better than you,
Yeah,
and there's 100, 200 that are just as good as you.
yeah,
And so you really have to like keep yourself open. And when you get into like good discussions and stuff like that in a community like that, I think it fosters growth much better than you would. Like, let's say your growth path involved just playing at your LGS. What are the odds of a player being better than you at your LGS? A lot of the time, it's not that high
yeah,
for someone who's like a good moto grinder. And even if it is, there's maybe one or two, and maybe they already have someone they work with and don't really feel that they want to work with you, for example,
mhm.
or maybe vice versa. And I think it just shows you that like COVID has really pushed these online communities to function at like such a better rate. And I think a thing that you guys are benefiting from, the Zoomers in particular, and anyone new to Magic through the pandemic, to competitive Magic, is that I think a lot of the time local game stores while being a great thing and a great resource for fun and stuff, can really stunt growth. Because a
Mm.
lot of the time you might end up being like the big fish in the little pond, and you're just going to 3-0, 4-0, 5-0 your FNM every single week, and you're going to struggle to learn. And I think that's even something that happens in Magic Online leagues right now. Is just a lot of struggling to learn. And I've found the best way for me to learn is to just keep discussions open with players and my peers whose opinion I respect. And I think anyone new to Magic now, that's sort of been their only option. So they just kind of have a leg up because they didn't go through like the LGS path of trying to get good, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with me personally, I was very fortunate to grow up in London, and especially like the London Magic community here. Historically, in Ontario, London has always had a lot of really, really strong players. Uh, like Sean Dywall, I remember he's I'm not like 1000% sure, but I believe he's originally from London, and I remember just like him doing very well. Michael Van Ball's another name. I've gone to events with Mike a bunch. I went to my first GP with him, and uh, like growing up in a city like London and growing up around a lot of these players, uh, it was definitely like a very very great experience. It was a great learning experience, but like you said, that can only go so far. And it took me a while really to like find an area like just like in London alone, because while we have like a strong uh like player base here, it significantly drops off, and uh it took me a while to really find that spot here in London. And then of course once COVID hit, uh and things just like kind of took a turn, uh just like being able to like while everyone else here and just like, and of course like everyone else in Ontario, it's just you know now just taking time off for Magic or whatever. I'm not doing anything. In 2020, I just graduated high school, and like, well, I'm not doing anything. I might as well like give this whole Magic thing a shot for full time things, and I just never really stopped. I like for the most part of 2021, I was living on Magic Online. Now, of course, me being 19 at the time, I didn't exactly have a whole lot of expenses, of course, but like I without I 100% of my income minus like the 2 months or so where I ended up moving away and working for a little bit. Uh, my income was 100% Magic, and a lot of that just has taught me so much. And there's still so much I have to learn too. Like as much as I can say, yeah, I'm a good Magic player. There's so much I have to work on, and that's part of the things I just love about Magic is that there's just when you think that you've learned everything is immediately the point where you become a worse Magic player, and just constantly I'm just trying to figure out how I can better myself, how I can like talking to peers, like seeing like what I can improve on. Of course, my number one issue probably is the fact that I'm electric, and that was one of the things I wanted to work on for a while. And uh, I would definitely say that my range has expanded a lot for the most part, but it's still definitely struggling a little bit. But yeah, there's so much to learn in this game, and now with this whole new season and new structure for Magic coming around, and with regionals coming around, there's so much more grinding to do, and there's so much more to be learning, and I'm just really excited for what this year has to offer.
Yeah, let's cut into the regional thing. So like now the whole Magic OP system has changed back to sort of similar to PPTQs, but with a cooler end game, I think.
Yeah.
And we have this weekend, we have a face-to-face tour in Toronto. And I know I had already signed up for it before I even knew for the fact that the top 32 of this event is going to give invites to the regional championship.
Yeah.
And it's just it just puts a lot like on the line. It's like the first Magic tournament back in the GTA in a while that Faces run, and there's like a pretty good amount on the line. And so I know I'm going to that event, and you are as well now.
Yeah.
And I take it you're going to be playing Amulet if you call yourself a one trick.
Yeah, I will. When the other one's gonna be playing Amulet, I maybe could have like outsourced something else if I had registered earlier. There were a couple of circumstances where I was actually not registered for this main event until as of a few hours ago. The event had to cap the course, and I had just all of a sudden found out slots had opened up, and they got one signed up, and I am now ready than ever to play this event. I've played like my fair share of events in Ontario. I guess during the pandemic, like I played like an event over at Harry T. I played Legacy 1K over at Chimera. But like, of course, now this is the first big event that we're getting here, and I'm just glad that we have competitive Magic back in Ontario, and I am honestly really glad that it's in this way, because back when the old PBTQ structure was around, I wasn't very good. And of course, me being pretty young at the time, I was around 16, 17 years old. I didn't really get to do a whole lot outside of London. When it came to traveling for events, it was always like the Chimera series going on for 2019, and as well as like a couple MCQs in Toronto. And so a lot of that just like I was like a fine player or below fine, honestly. And now knowing where I am now and feeling like I have an actual shot at, potentially even winning these events, is awesome. And more than anything, my goal for this weekend is just to keep for regionals. If I can do better than that, top 8 or even win the event, that's awesome. But my goal for this weekend is to keep for regionals. And as to my knowledge, X2 will lock that in.
Yeah, X2 should lock it in, yes.
Yeah. So that's the goal, X2. And if anything more for that, awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for myself. So I don't live in the GTA. I live a couple hours away, and I haven't seen so many of my friends in a couple of years. Like two of the players you mentioned, Sean Dollywall and Michael Van Valls. Like we tested for the last 2 Paper Pro Tours together.
Yeah,
and it's just going to be so nice and so wonderful to see my friends again. One thing I wanted to ask you, because I was just curious, because I think one time I had someone not know who KYT was for Magic, and I thought that blew my mind, because in my mind, KYT is the most important person in Canadian Magic history.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to know, when you think of Canadian Magic, who are like the big names to you?
Canadian Magic big names to me. So Alexander Hayne, not close. I feel like for a big part of Canadian Magic, I feel like Hayne really put us on the map.
Hayne's probably the best Canadian player ever.
Yeah. Who else? Thinking of names in the GTA. As of right now, Dollywall, of course. D-Rude. Perks champion back in the day. Isaac Crew, I feel like, is someone who like was just like started to do really well. I remember he won GP New Jersey at the start of 2020. So he's another phenomenal Magic player. Who else? Of course, Michael Van Balls for sure. Trying to think over in like KW region, because there's a lot of strong players over there too. TJ Gabriel for sure. For the most part, 2 days is just like massive part of Ontario Magic as well. So, yeah, I mean, like off the top of my head, those are like a lot of the people who I would consider like, or like, I guess like more so like people who like people
It could just
who
matter
like,
most to you.
yeah,
That's fine.
or
Yeah.
well, and also just like kind of just like know like off the top of the head, but like probably one person who I think is really going to put Canada on the map going forward is Johnny Gutman. He just recently top 4 Pro Tour and is queued for Worlds this year. I remember meeting Ginky. That's his handle on Arena, I guess. But I think Ginky has a lot of like just, he has so much ahead of him, and I think he's gonna do a lot of great things in Magic. I mean, he already has, but I think him playing at Worlds this year is really, really going to showcase Canada, and I'm really excited to see how he does and like what else he has in store in the future as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He might be spoiling a future episode, but it'd be a pretty big shame to not to bring Ginky on the podcast. He's an incredible player, and when you talk to him, you can just understand that he's going to be extremely good.
Yeah, for sure.
And just yeah, he's a very good player, and I look forward to talking to him at some point.
Yeah.
So I guess right now I just want to plug our wonderful sponsor, face2facegames.com. So they're the ones who are currently running all of the events, the regional championships, and stuff like that. So if you have an LGS that wants to run one of these events, they're the people you have to go to. You can buy the kits for, if you're a smaller store, for like a 1 slot invite. You can buy kits for 4 slots, or if you want to scale it in some other way, they're open to having conversations about that as well. So, like, if you're listening to this and you have a local store who's not running these events, you should get them on running these events. This is exactly the kind of stuff that fosters like local competitive Magic. And if you want to order your cards, you can order them at face2facegames.com right now. They currently have a sale, or it's not necessarily a sale, but it's like a giveaway. If you spend $35, you get entered into a giveaway, which can include anything from like $1,000 to like a promotional pack or packs or whatever, and store credit and stuff. So if you wanted to get some cards, I do recommend you go over there. It'd be a great way to support the cast, and also they're just obviously the top dog in Canada right now. All right, so I think we basically discussed everything I was looking to talk about. I think we got a good idea for like who you are and why people should know who you are, and I think we got a good idea for like your kind of mindset. People learned a little bit about you, like how you kind of blew up on the scene. But the thing is that I find bizarre is because like I'm from Magic Online mostly, is that to me people should know who you are, but most people aren't going to know who you are at this event. And that to me is just like a wild experience how separated the two are because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But I think people are a lot of in for a rude awakening with Jack Potter at the face-to-face event this weekend. And so you're playing Amulet. Yeah. You got that all stacked up and ready to go. Any spice or anything interesting with your deck list that you want to share so people can
I mean, I did just think of a really way to phrase it, but probably not something I want people to be aware of. But
okay.
We can just say that there is a beast within me, you could say.
Okay. Is there any shout outs you want to give to maybe some people who've really helped you that you haven't already mentioned?
Of course, the London Magic community, namely a lot of the folks at the Mana Lounge, as well as Players, Cards, and Collectibles. They have been a massive part in a lot of my growth here in London. So, and of course, just like a couple individuals here in London, Katie Clark, Julian Donovan Penchot, Kai Allen, Ken Froats, Jesse Burden, who else? Eric Uzeri. Who else am I thinking of? there's like so many other people who I want to like mention, but I'm just like brain farting right now. But just in general, just the London Magic community is an awesome community, and I am so grateful to have been a part of all of it. Two more. Hayden Otterhoff and Owen Turcotte as well. And of course, Michael Van Vals. I can't fucking preach his name enough.
Yeah, Van Vals is a great guy. He's
Yeah.
a strange fella in some ways, but he's our strange fella.
Exactly.
All right, well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, Jack. And I look forward to you proving me right by doing well at the event. So if there wasn't enough pressure with the regional championship invite on the line.
I will try my very best.
All right, thanks a lot.